Hi, this is Chris and welcome to a brand new Storyline Magic Series tutorial here on the Discover eLearning YouTube channel. In this video we're going to shine our spotlight on tilt.js and walk through the steps we need to take to implement this JavaScript library into our Storyline projects to create fun, interactive rollover effects like the one you're seeing here. You can find a lot of examples for the things that are possible using tilt.js over on their GitHub website. I very much like this parallax effect shown here, so this is what we're going to focus on creating in our video today. Click on the download link which will open the GitHub repository for the tilt.js library. Then click into the source folder where you will find the file tilt.jquery.js. Right click on this and click Save Link As in order to save the file. We'll be adding this to our published project folder a little later on. Working out what code we need to use and in what order to get all of this working in Storyline required a lot of experimentation, so the tips I'm sharing today should definitely save any developers looking to achieve a similar effect in their own projects a lot of time. We'll start with a look at the project that I've created in Storyline. You can see the main elements on the slide timeline here are three groups, each containing an outer image that sits in the background and a separate icon image which is positioned in front. I've applied a subtle shadow effect in Storyline to both images so that there's a sense of depth before the cards even start to move. You can also see that I've set up some triggers for each image to show an empty layer when the groups are clicked. This is a simple way to get the default mouse cursor icon to change to a hand when the user is hovering their mouse over the group in the browser, which looks good and makes it clear that the image elements are there to be interacted with. Importantly, when we get to writing our JS code, I have applied an accessibility text value to both of the images as well as to the group that contains them. So make sure you have 3 separate accessibility text values in total. I'm actually going to delete 2 of these groups, so we'll just be working with one grouped image for the rest of this tutorial. Let's now get on with writing our JavaScript code, which we will trigger right at the very start of the timeline. We'll start by loading in the JS files which we need to have in place, and these need to be included within the Storyline function, as attempting to add the scripts manually to the story.html file in either the head or end of body tag doesn't appear to work for tilt.js. I'll create 2 new constant variables, script1 and script2, which will contain 2 script elements to be assigned to the document. The source for the first script is going to be the publicly accessible path to jQuery, made available on the Google API's website. You can find the link to this easily online or copy what is shown here. And the source of the second script will be our tilt.jquery.js file, which we are going to place into the root folder of our project. So I'll include this by writing the path as // and then tilt.jquery.js. To each of the scripts I'm going to assign an async or asynchronous value of false, which is going to prevent the browser from loading the script simultaneously, as in this case we want the jQuery library to load in before tilt.js to avoid errors. And lastly, we'll include document.body.appendChild with the name of our variables in parentheses to have these placed at the very end of our body tag in the story.html file by the JavaScript. Okay, let's get to work on the JavaScript we need to write to make our group object rotate and tilt whenever the mouse is hovered over. I'll start by creating a new constant variable above all other scripts created so far called slGroup. And to this variable I'm going to assign our weather cards group using a query selector function and the accessibility tag name which we assigned in Storyline. So we achieve this using a data-acc-text value assignment within square brackets like so. But here's where we encounter our first problem, which is to do with the way that tilt.js actually works, as if we take a look at our working example in the browser here and highlight the outer G div itself, you can see that what tilt.js actually does is dynamically update the transform translate position values as the mouse is moved over the image. The problem with this is that Storyline actually uses the transform translate values in order to position slide objects in the browser in the same way that they have been placed in Storyline. So attempting to update these with tilt.js would cause the positioning of our card to go out of place. As you can see, the way that we can get around this is to instead apply the dynamically edited values to the group div within our data ACC text assigned div above. So this value will remain untouched, and we will instead use a div without any pre-existing translate values to affect the rotation. And this all seems to work fine. So back in our JavaScript editor, we will target that group div by writing the word div in front of square brackets, and then add a space after the brackets and write .group. Now we can start to apply the attributes to the group which tilt.js is looking out for. First, we'll set an attribute for data-tilt, which just needs to be empty. And now at this point we can use any attributes provided to us in the tilt.js documentation to play with. I'm going to add a data tilt perspective, data tilt speed, and data tilt max attribute. You can experiment with the values of these attributes to achieve different results in your interaction. Lastly, and 2 further tips from myself, are to include the following 2 additional lines. The first, transform style equals preserve 3D, is a recommendation by tilt.js to ensure that all child elements within the group div also conform to the same 3D positioning. The next line, style.height equals inherit, is due to the fact that the group div rendered by Storyline does not actually have a height value set, so we can use the inherit assignment to make this match whatever the size of the object is that is created in Storyline, for example the height of our card group. This is good to go, so let's publish the project to our desktop now and see the result. Remember that JavaScript won't work in Storyline's preview mode, so go ahead and publish your project instead, for example straight to your desktop. As soon as the project is published, go ahead and drop the tilt.jquery.js file we downloaded earlier into the project's root directory. We can now open the story.html file in the browser to launch our project. This is looking good, so now we'll jump back into Storyline and see what we need to do to create the parallax effect shown in the tilt.js demo. As you can see in their instruction, they are telling us that we need to assign a translate value onto the z-axis of our object to bring this further into the foreground. The problem for us is that we have no way of assigning a z-axis value in Storyline, as everything on a slide is a fixed 2D value, so we need to look into getting around this using JavaScript. And here's where things get really interesting and challenging, because as we saw earlier, Storyline uses the transform translate CSS values assigned to the object div in order to position where it needs to be in the browser. We can't just overwrite this value with a z-axis value alone, as we would end up losing all of the position value data and the card would move away from its intended x and y axis positions. So what we need is a way to capture the starting position values of this div and make sure that they are included in the style values that we will be applying to the div instead. Here's how we can achieve this using JavaScript. First, we'll assign our weather icon to a new constant variable using the same query selector function that we used earlier. The data accessibility text value that I wrote for this icon in Storyline was inner B. Next, we'll assign all style values for this div to a new variable which we'll call style by using a window.getComputedStyle function and writing the name of our new variable in parentheses. We're only interested in the transform values being set by Storyline, so we can narrow this down to only include those values by creating a new variable which we'll call transform, and then type style.getPropertyValue and the word transform in single quotes in parentheses. If we set up an alert so that we can see what is being stored to our transform variable right now, we can see when this loads in the browser that we have a string containing the word matrix followed by several number values, and it is these last 2 values that we are interested in, as these are the x and y positions of our inner B div. So in order to split and extract the values we need from this string, we can use a .split function in order to separate our current variable between the open parentheses character into a new array that contains two elements, the string matrix and the preceding string of numbers. We'll then use split function again using the closing parenthesis character in order to leave us with a variable containing only our numbers split by commas. And lastly, one more split function which will create a totally new array of all numbers contained in the remaining value string, with each number indexed between 0 and 5. It is only the index values 4 and 5 that we are interested in, so we can extract both of these into two new variables by using a parseInteger function to convert the string values into integer values that we can use in our CSS code. And as long as we are grabbing the index value we need and trimming this from the original string, then we will end up with the separated values that we need. Now we just need to use these values in order to create a new transform translate value for the inner B div, using a combination of these original values and a new z-axis value. Let's start with a boilerplate line of code by typing innerdiv.style.transform equals translate 3D XYZ in brackets, rotate 0 degrees in brackets, and scale 1,1 in brackets. And then at this point we'll be using a combination of static values and variable values entered into our code. The z-axis value will be a constant static value, so we'll change this to 30 pixels, but feel free to try different values yourself. And now whenever we need to write a variable value in place of a static value, we just need to add a closing speech mark and then include the name of our variable with a plus symbol on either side. And then reopen the speech mark in order for the code to continue. Once both x and y variable values are in place for your code, it should look something like this. If you're totally new to JavaScript, then very well done on following along so far. The split function in JavaScript is a very useful and powerful feature in your box of tools, so learning how this works will definitely help you as you continue to learn and experiment with everything that's possible using JavaScript. Let's see our entire project in action now from the user's point of view in the browser. At this point you can continue to play around with the various attributes that you can introduce into your project using Tilt.js. There is even a scale up down on hover, as well as this nice looking glare effect. So try them out. Just remember, if you are planning on using multiple hover groups in the same project, to use the correct accessibility text values, which should be different for each group. And make sure to assign these to unique variable names within your JavaScript code. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if so, please do like and subscribe to the Discover eLearning YouTube channel. And also visit the Discover eLearning website at discoverelearninguk.com, where you will find Articulate Storyline project downloads and our advanced storyline development tutorials that cover scripting languages like JavaScript and many more courses that will be coming very soon. See you in the next one, and bye for now.